All right, guys, welcome back to the Soul Powered Portal. I have an amazing guest here for you today. I'm so excited to dive into this conversation. I have with me Ele. Ele, how are you?
Hi, Rebekah. I'm good, and I'm so excited to be having this conversation with you today.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much for being here. So, guys, Ele is a spiritual business mentor, a published author, healer, and podcast host herself. And Ele and I had the pleasure of getting to know each other inside of the group container that I'm working with Makosi, who you guys met last week. So, Ele's been working with Makosi for quite some time. So, you guys know the depth that, we've already kind of talked about some of that, the depth that you go into as you're working with Makosi. So I was really drawn to Ele's work, and that's why I wanted to bring her on today. So Ele, if you don't mind, just kind of let's get started with really telling us a little bit about your background, who it is that you help in the world, and how you help them.
My background, well, I started with a very boring university degree in marketing and business. And then one day I decided to quit the banking industry. And I started learning about yoga, energy healing, coaching, and really diving deep into what my soul was craving, which is everything spiritual. And so I really bridge our material human experience with the spiritual world. And I help women entrepreneurs to really step into their genius, have a soul aligned life, a soul led business, so that they can really share their gifts with the world. And of course, enjoy wealth, abundance, fulfillment, joy as a result of it.
I love that. And you guys will notice that our paths are very aligned. And so I know this conversation is going to bring amazing juiciness to you guys. And I know someone will ask, because our accents are obviously very different. So where are you from, Ele?
Yeah, my mother tongue is French, so you can hear my charming French accent.
Beautiful.
I'm
Beautiful.
from Belgium, originally in Europe, and in Belgium we speak French and Flemish, but I'm not sure you really want to hear me speak Flemish though.
Well, I love it. I love the accent. It's beautiful. I always love to listen. And I know some of the other girls in the group are like, we just love to hear you talk, Ele. So you guys will have to check out her podcast too, because she could soothe you to sleep. Honestly,
Yeah.
She's like the most soothing voice. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, because I was so drawn to your work, like initially, as I entered into this space with all of you amazing women. And one of the things that I shared in a previous podcast episode was how I was really drawn to this desire, my soul's desire to balance the masculine and then the feminine energies in my life. And I was so heavily in the masculine for so long. So just hearing it from an expert in this space, can you really share a little bit more about what this means, and then why is it important for someone to balance these energies?
Great question. So we live in a world that is very masculine. And so as women, we received the right to vote not even 100 years ago. And so suddenly we were like, oh, I can vote, I can work, I'm finally being listened to. I'm not just a baby making machine. I can do something else. So I'm going to make sure to do it right, to show that I deserve the seat around the table, and I'm going to try to fit in. And so we have tried to work like men. We started wearing pants like men. I mean, it's a ridiculous example, but it's just to show you how deep it's really impacted our ways of being, because we started doing everything like men. And because the society was very masculine, then we started being very much in our masculine energy. So to give you a bit of a context, masculine energy is the doing energy, the structuring, the goal setting, the protecting, the providing. But we are women. Of course, we have masculine energy, but we are mostly feminine essenced beings. We have more feminine energy, and we need to honor that feminine energy to be connected to our soul, to be connected to our purpose and our genius. And the feminine energy is all about being, receiving, connecting with your intuition, your creativity, surrendering, etc. So it's an energy that is very different than the masculine values. But even as women, quite often when I talk about that on podcasts or during interviews, people ask me, but isn't the feminine like a passive, like low vibe energy? I'm like, no, not at all. For feminine essence beings, so for you and me, Rebekah, our feminine energy is the seat of our power. And it's very important to come back to our feminine energy, because masculine energy actually comes from feminine energy. To give you a bit of an example, masculine is the day, it's the sun, it's warm energy. Feminine energy, it's the night, it's the cold, it's the moon. And every day starts at midnight when it's the night. Every man is birthed from the womb of a mother. So everything starts with the feminine. And we need a very grounded, very present feminine to be able to then manage our masculine energy that can be very out there, very I want to do, I want to show up, I want to give. And if you're always in that masculine doing, giving energy, which is warm energy, you are going to burn out. Even our language knows about it. So coming back to the feminine helps you be grounded, helps you be more healthy, like physically, but also much more connected spiritually, much more creative, because that feminine energy, it's your intuition, it's your creativity, it's a birther. And I teach all about the feminine, but really the purpose is to create sacred union between these two. We don't want to just be in our masculine or just in our feminine. We really need both. We just need to come back to our feminine, ground her more, embody her more, so that we can call in the sacred warrior afterwards and create that sacred union. And I love to use the example of nature. I always come back to nature. She's such a beautiful teacher. When you look at the sky, you have the sun and the moon. And from our earthy perspective, they are the same size in the sky.
Yeah.
They are as important.
I love that. That is so good. So just to be clear, this isn't about like man or woman. Every human being, right, has this energy, and every human being wants that sacred union, right? Yeah. So what can happen if you're out of balance? Say you have too much masculine or too much feminine. Can you talk a little bit about that wounded nature of that paradigm?
Yeah. So if you have too much masculine, there are actually two questions in your question here. So I'm going to answer two. If you're too much in your masculine, you're going to be burnt out. Even for men, even men who are masculine essence beings, if they are too much in their masculine doing, giving energy, they're going to have too much of their warm physical energy within themselves, and they're going to burn out. If you're too much in your feminine, you're going to be too much in that daydreaming, reflecting, a bit up there energy, and you're not going to be able to birth anything, to really create anything, to do anything. So we really want both, because the feminine, she's the visionary. She's the leader, actually. She's the one that connects with the desires of your soul and then calls in the sacred warrior to make it happen. And then together they make it happen. It's really a dance.
That's beautiful.
So that's what happens if you're too much in your feminine and in your masculine. But then in your question, you also talk about the wounded feminine and the wounded masculine, which is different. So really, as women, it's important to know that we all have some wounded feminine energy. Now you might be wondering, but what is that, Ele, really? The wounded feminine, it's that part of you that is struggling with separation. When your soul was created from source, she went through a first separation from source. And then you chose your parents. You went into the womb of your mother, and then you were born. And then you went through a second separation. And so the feminine is craving connection, because the feminine is all about community, togetherness, oneness. Masculine energy is more about individuality and like career and work. Again, we have these two energies inside of us. But the wounded feminine is that part of you that is craving oneness so much that you are going to negate yourself in order to feel connected to others. So you're going to hide parts of yourself. You're going to dim your light. You're going to say yes when actually you mean no. You're going to fear rejection, so you're going to do certain things that are not aligned for you in order to be loved. You can also sometimes manipulate to get what you want without actually really speaking your truth. So it's all sorts of behaviors that we have that are not really aligned with who we are because we are craving that oneness. And so the path to embodying your divine feminine is actually remembering that you are one already. You are connected to your mother. You are connected to source. We are all connected to each other. Mostly you're connected to yourself, to your power, to your soul, to your genius, to your authentic being. And so, as I explained in my book, the first gift that you start to activate when you are on the journey of embodying your divine feminine is the gift of authenticity. Because the bridge that is helping you move away from the wounded feminine into the divine feminine, it's starting to step into that authentic, amazing human being that you are through healing the witch wound, the bitch wound, and the whore wound.
This was really what, like, you taught a masterclass on this inside of our group, and I was just like blown away by these concepts because, you know, there's so many moving parts to all of this, and I feel like I was in this place of too much masculine energy, but I also had, you know, some of this wounded feminine piece. So my question leading up to this was going to be, let's talk a little bit about some of these things. So your book called The Path of Femininity, I have it right here. You had talked about the 6 gifts of your sovereignty inside of this book. And so that first one was the authenticity, but I love that you bring up these 3 wounds. Can we spend a little bit of time on that? Because I think it's so powerful for me to learn.
Yeah. So the reason why I say that the wounded feminine is really a collective wound is because these 3 wounds, we all have them. Every woman has them. And even if I'm going to explain what they are and you think, oh, well, I've worked through that. I have no problem saying no and being sensual or being seen, because really that's what they are about. Maybe you've worked on them, but on a collective level, we still all have them. And it's transgenerational and karmic as well. So sometimes you might, you know, slip into one of these behaviors again because of the collective energy or because of karmic or transgenerational things. And so it is believed that these 3 wounds have been passed down to us from Mary Magdalene. So now, whether you're a Christian or not, it doesn't really matter, because Mary Magdalene, she's more of a symbol. She represents a lot, and in the spiritual world, she has a big place, and she's considered to be the embodiment of the divine feminine, actually. And so Mary Magdalene, she was a woman that was very independent. She was not tied to any man. She was not interested really in being with any man. And her independence was scary because patriarchy already existed 2,000 years ago. So she would say no whenever she wanted and yes whenever she wanted. And she was called a bitch for that, because she wasn't doing what men wanted her to do, because she was so independent. And then she was also very intuitive, very psychic. She was a healer herself. And she was not afraid of expressing her gifts, of like coming to the public place and healing people and showing up. But she was stoned for it. And so that led then to woman seeing that and being afraid of being seen, showing up, sharing your gifts with the world. And so the witch wound today is really that part of yourself that is afraid of being seen on social media.
Yeah.
That's how it translates to our modern world, where we're going to be afraid of showing up, of doing videos, of doing lives, or of talking about psychic experiences we've had, spiritual experiences we've had, or gifts that we are uncomfortable talking about. Because we're afraid of being rejected. Potentially, deep down, it's the fear of death.
Yeah, because you think about the witch trials, like, and all of that as well.
Exactly.
That's a very relevant thing that has happened not that long ago in modern history. If you think about it, it's kind of insane that was ever legal and able to actually happen.
If you read my book, you'll see that it's been happening in South Africa until 2006. That's yesterday.
Wow. Unbelievable.
And then there is a third wound, which is the main wound we know Mary Magdalene for, which is the whore wound, because really what we know today about her is that she was a prostitute. She was much more than that, of course, but that's usually how she's described. And basically, she was trained in sacred sexual practices that she was teaching to Jesus and helping Jesus with. And she was called a prostitute because men just didn't understand what she was doing and what they were doing. And so today that translates into us being scared to be called a whore if we wear a skirt that is too short, a top that is a bit too, that has too big of a décolleté, or if we dance and we have fun. I mean, we've all been called whores because we slept with a guy and maybe another guy the next night. I mean, why would that be a problem if we own our sexuality? Men do that. And, clap, clap at the end of the weekend. Oh, you slept with 2 different girls. Awesome. If we do that, that's the whore wounds. We are afraid of really being in our sensuality, in our sexuality, in our gifts, in our independence, because we might be called bitch, witches, or whores. And the truth is that if you actually heal these 3 wounds, you are deeply connected to your power. Because sexuality is your direct access to source. It connects you with your gifting. It connects you with your power. If you're not afraid of being seen and really being authentically yourself, that's part of your power. That's what you came here to do. Your soul didn't incarnate to hide behind the curtains.
Yeah.
No. And so healing these 3 wounds is really one of the first things that I do with my clients, because your power is there in the healing of these.
Yeah. Yeah. And that hit me so much when you had brought those up, because I knew that there was something deeply rooted in me. I was very fearful of fully being able to show up, be authentic. That's one of the reasons I decided to work with Mikosi, in the first place. And then, you came in and kind of touched on these, and wow, it really did open my eyes. And so would you say that if someone were resonating with any one of these, that the first step would be really to create some awareness? Like, number one, maybe now this is, if you're struggling with this, someone who's listening, really creating that awareness and allowing yourself to see that you're not crazy, right? That this is real. These are real collective wounds. What's the first step in really allowing for healing once you recognize that one of these things comes up?
Give yourself some grace, because we can be realizing that and being like, oh my God, and I've been staying small for so long and afraid of being in my sexuality and all these things. It's okay. Your mother has these wounds, your grandmothers have these wounds, your friends have these wounds. It's very imprinted in society. So you're aware of it now. Awesome. Give yourself a break. Don't be too hard on yourself. But then if you really choose to heal these, I love to actually reframe them and help my clients see and help you see the power that are actually in these behaviors. Because, for example, if we start with the first one, the bitch wound, The bitch is actually a woman that is very connected to her needs.
Yeah.
And very concrete example, you have your own business, you've had a very long day, very exciting because you love what you do, but still it's 6 p.m. You'd love to now go back in your feminine energy, have a bath, read a book, and then have dinner. And you get out of your office because now everybody's working from home, right? And then your kids come running to you, mommy, we're hungry. What do? Most women would be like, okay, I'm going to cook you something. But then you're drained, and then that drained energy goes into the food that you're preparing for your kids. And really all you want to do is have that bath and read that book. And so you're not really present with your kids, right? But you still do it because you want to take care of your kids. My invitation for you is to actually put yourself first. What if you actually said to your kid, here's an apple, here's some carrots, some almonds. I'm going to have a bath. I'm going to be back in 30 minutes and I'm going to prepare the best dinner for you. And we're going to have the best time. And I'm going to pour all my love in that dinner because I'm going to have refilled my cup.
That's so important.
And so I love to rephrase actually the bitch as a loving and caring woman, because she knows that if she takes care of herself, gives herself what she needs, then she is at her best and can give her best and all her love then to her kids, her partner, her clients, and all the world, really.
It's such an important concept because I do think that, and we're shamed in this day and age as well. We're somehow expected to be, especially mothers, you're supposed to be the best wife, excuse me, the best mother, the most amazing entrepreneur, the most, and it's all of these different hats that we're somehow supposed to wear and do them all incredibly well, or else we're shamed for it, right? Especially the mother piece. So I really resonate a lot with that, because sometimes when we have children, it's like we're now no longer who we were before we had kids. It's like we are a mother, right? And I see that so much in a lot of my my friends and the people in my lives, where it's like, but if you just fill up your cup, like you said first, you really actually do show up in such a better way for those people that you care most about.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that reframe. And I've actually taken that. And, the reality is most of the time your family understands, right? We just put that guilt and that shame on ourselves, or we accept that guilt and the shame that others are trying to project onto us. So I love that. That's so
I love that you're bringing up these emotions, because shame and guilt are exactly the emotions that these three wounds create. So if you're experiencing shame or guilt, maybe ask yourself, how can I actually rephrase that? I'm not a bitch. I'm a loving and caring woman. I'm not a witch that is going to be stoned. I'm actually very talented. And by allowing myself to step into my gifts and my talents, I'm showing others what's possible, and I'm serving others because I'm helping others with my gifts. And I'm not a whore. I'm just a woman that's very connected to her body, and that knows that, like, for us women, if we are in our bodies and we sublime our bodies and we love our bodies, that really is influencing everything that we do, that there's so much power in it. Yeah. So you're not a whore. You're just a very powerful woman. You're so powerful that men decided to call you a whore. Even other women sometimes call you a whore, right?
Yeah.
Because they are also afraid of their own power. They don't know how to step in it. So it's much easier to criticize other women.
And that's where the collective wound comes in, right?
Exactly.
So when we notice ourselves, and even after you had really explained this for the first time and hearing this, I thought, well, is there any part of my life where I'm showing up being, with judgment towards other women for their sexuality? And really what that would mean is that there's a part of me who doesn't feel, able to really truly express myself. So that's something to consider as well, is that's how we heal that collective wound, right? Is to stop projecting these internal wounds onto other women. Would you say that's right?
Absolutely. I mean, life is our playground. Every time we are triggered, it's just an opportunity for us to do deeper work, heal more, and step more into our power, really. So if you're triggered by other women, or if you're feeling shame or guilt, take yourself by the hand, go sit with yourself, light a candle, and ask yourself, what's going on here? Yeah. How can I actually release that for myself? And then, there's many more exercises that you can do to heal these three particularly. And I share some of them in the book and in the workbook that goes with the book. But it's not work that you do like that in the blink of an eye, because it's so deeply ingrained in society. But once you've done it, you're not just healing yourself, you're healing the collective.
Such a beautiful, perspective to see things through. And I'm working through the book and the workbook as well. And you guys, if any of this is resonating with you, don't walk, run to your phone and order this book. It is amazing. And I actually ended up buying, there's a 21-day course that goes along with it. I went like all in with this. And so I'm really, healing a lot of this in myself, which is another reason I wanted to bring you on and, talk about this, because I think that it's really, really important. So we talked about the first wound. What are some of the first gift of the sovereignty? So can you share a little bit about some of the others?
Of course. So the thing that's really cool is that once you really start stepping into your authenticity, automatically it is going to unlock the others. They are really they are put in a certain order for a reason, because when you are fully authentic, you become magnetic, which is the second gift. And the feminine, she's magnetic. She doesn't chase, she attracts. She's in her light, she's in her power, and people either love it or hate it. That's what magnetism is. Quite often we just want to be loved and attract all the things, but we forget that we also attract haters when we're in our power.
That's true.
Or we repel people. And that's awesome. If you're repelling people, it means you're doing the right thing. Even if your ego is like, no, I want to be loved by everybody. No, that's not really how it works. Sorry to break it to you.
We're not meant to serve every single person, right? No. Everyone isn't going to resonate with our message, and that's actually okay.
That's okay. Yeah, for sure. And so magnetism is really the second gift. And when you are magnetic, you start being really full of yourself. And when I say full of yourself, it's not that you become pretentious or anything. It's really full of your own energy, of self-love, of gratitude. And you suddenly start to slow down, because you realize that there's no point in hurrying, in chasing things. You start actually aligning with the magnetism of the earth. The Schumann resonance is very magnetic. And so when you slow down, you align with that frequency and you become even more magnetic. And in that slowing down, you are then going to be able to hear your intuition more. Yes. So intuition is the third gift of the feminine. And when you're fully intuitive and you let your intuition guide you, then suddenly you stop controlling so much and you start to surrender, which is the fourth gift of the divine feminine. Really being in that surrendered state, knowing that you're co-creating life, knowing that the best is yet to come and that you're expanding day after day, and that all obstacle is actually an opportunity to expand more. And so once you're really in that surrendered, intuitive, magnetic, authentic space, then you start receiving much more, which is the fifth gift of the divine feminine. Because the feminine, she receives, the masculine gives, the feminine receives. And so you're aligning more and more with your soul. And so all the abundance, which is the nature of your soul is limitless, abundant, like nature herself. You start receiving all of that and really opening yourself to all the things that life has in store for you. And then finally, that leads to the last gift, which is the gift of grounding. And when I say grounding, of course, I mean you're present, you're connected to the earth, but I go even further, because for me, grounding really is your soul that is fully incarnated in your body, fully connected, fully present. And the truth is that most people are not grounded, But what it really means is that most people are not connected to their soul and are not having a soul-led life. And their soul is a bit up there and is not like really grounded in every and present in every chakra of your energy field.
That's so important to know. And I do think that, and again, that's, the soul powered portal, right? This is literally what is able to unlock everything that we desire. But I think that society has us so ingrained to, and programmed to believe that it needs to be this way. You have to do things in this order. That's the only way to create success. And I really do think that these kinds of conversations are what's really truly changing the paradigm, that people can really see it's actually possible for you, that when you are fully in alignment with what it is that your soul here, came here to create, that's what really unlocks all of the success, all of the fulfillment, all the connection, all the contribution, everything that it is that you want to create in the world, right? But I think our society has us so ingrained to believe otherwise. And I love that, this system, this patriarchal system is really kind of dismantling before our eyes. And I love it. I'm loving what is taking place right now, and that these conversations are beginning to happen, and that more and more women are stepping into their power, and men, of course, are stepping into their power and beginning to heal these wounds. Isn't it just like such a beautiful time to be alive, to watch all of this take place?
Oh yeah, it's so beautiful, and it's also written in the stars. How we're really moving away from the age of Pisces, that is masculine, to the age of Aquarius, which is feminine. Before we were ruled by Mars, now we're ruled by Venus, which is the feminine. And so that's why we're now talking so much about healing, because we're coming back to our emotions, we're coming back to ourselves, we're going back inwards, because the feminine is all inwards. And that's why the feminine is rising. Like, so many people are talking about divine feminine courses and books and da 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 da. I mean, 2 years ago, nobody was talking about this. And now everybody, a lot of people, not everybody, are actually teaching this. Like, I'm not the only one. And it really excites me and brings me a lot of hope and yeah, really excitement for the future to see that, because we're all invited to come back to ourselves, to go inward, to heal. And even for men, like, a few years ago, not even 100 years ago, we had 2 world wars. Men had to go out there and fight, and they had to shove down their emotions. There was no place to be missing their family and crying. And so it's no wonder that even for men, they are disconnected from their feminine. They're disconnected from their emotions. They're disconnected from their intuition and from receiving, because they had to be tough. And honestly, I feel, almost sorry for them. I have so much compassion for men.
Yeah, I do too. And this is really a conversation that I think is finally beginning to come out, where men are given this societal permission to start to really share. Because I know, having, 4 brothers, myself and my husband, and growing up around this, they were told, boys don't cry, you got to be strong, you have to be, you don't show your emotion, and I know my husband has begun to step in and heal this. And it's such a beautiful way of being, is really just being able to express all aspects of you without creating that shame. And I also think too, with the lockdowns and the things that happened over the last few years, I really think that has a lot to do with why these conversations are happening, because what else did we have to do but to go inward? I mean, I know, for me, that was such a time of spiritual growth and opportunity, and I know it's the same for a lot of other people, because we didn't have all of the busyness and all of the things. So I really think that catapulted us to where we are now.
And I think it's also important for women to allow men to go back to their feminine, because a lot of women actually like it that their men are the strong one, the one that doesn't cry, and makes them feel safe. Yeah. And so I have seen around me, or some men came to me and said, well, I cannot be vulnerable. I cannot be the weak one, because my wife is not going to like that. And certain women do freak out when they see their men cry, because suddenly it's their pillar, their foundation that is crumbling. What's actually, I really believe, an invitation for women to come back to their own pillars, their own foundation, their own power, and really allowing men to be vulnerable, because there's so much strength in daring to be vulnerable in front of your partner. And I think women still have a bit of work to do to be able to receive men into doing that.
I agree. And I think it really opens up this beautiful level of depth that you can have with your partner, right? When they are able to fully express themselves. I know 100%, with my husband, in any period of time, being able to be vulnerable with me, the level of connection and depth that we have is so much stronger. And I know damn well he's still the protector. He's strong. I know he has that strength. I know he's my foundation and my rock. But that level of really being able to grow and be authentic together, it really is something that nobody can take away, right? Like it's this beautiful level of connection. And so I love that. And I really would like to see from you, like if someone is really just hearing about all of this for the first time. I know this might be a lot. And there's different avenues of this, and there's different levels and layers and all of that. Would you say that, like, what would you tell someone who's really kind of noticing some of these patterns, maybe showing up in their own lives, maybe noticing now that, hey, there's some things that might need a deeper attention or some healing? What would you say is one of the first steps that they would take, aside from getting the book, guys, but right now that they could do today to begin kind of seeing and exploring this a little more deeply?
Yeah. Well, I think really sitting with that authenticity is really important. And get the book for sure. Use the workbook. If you want to go further, there's the 21-day course to embody your divine feminine, but you don't need to wait to have all these things to start. You can start right now by really asking yourself, where am I saying yes, where I actually mean no? Where am I experiencing shame in my life? Because every time that you say yes, when you actually mean no, you're betraying yourself. You're breaking the trust towards yourself. And that self-betrayal is actually imprinting itself in your yoni lips.
Wow.
Because your yoni lips are the doors of your sacred temple. And you might be saying yes to have an intimate exchange with your partner, but maybe also yes to something else. It doesn't need to be sexual. And what you're doing is that you're allowing that person to penetrate your energy field. And the doors of your sacred temple are your yoni lips. So it doesn't need to be sexual. Every yes that is actually a no is really going directly in your body. And so that can result in certain sexual issues to start with, but also self-trust issues, which is why it's so hard for us to surrender these days. Because we want to control everything. Deep down, when we are controlling, and I mean, I'm talking from experience, I was a huge control freak for like 10 years in my life. It's because you don't trust yourself. It's because you're not sure that you have the resources, the skills, the creativity, the wisdom to cope with whatever situation might arise if you're not in control. It's your ego that's also making you think, oh, well, if things happen and I did not predict them or I cannot control them, it means I'm weak. No. You're strong. You're wise. You know you have a co-creator and you trust that co-creator. But you can only trust and surrender at the same level as you actually trust yourself. And so starting with that very simple thing of, is my yes a real yes? Is my no a real no? can go a really long way, as I just explained, because deep down, it comes back to trusting yourself, surrendering, trusting, and really actually evenly being able to manifest the life of your dreams, because you need to surrender so much for that to happen. You need to detach.
Yeah, there's so much more of that than
Yeah.
I think any of us are prepared for. And I know this was a big thing that I had to go through over the last couple of years, is letting go of control and actually realizing, like, what do we really have control over anyway? You know, when we stress about the how, when we stress about the outcomes and we worry, you know, I had this thought a while back, and I thought, you know, of all of the time that I spent worrying about my situation and whether this was going to work out, or, you know, that I was going to make this kind of money, or I was going to do this or that, no matter what it was, I just look at, like, even with all of that worry, I still ended up here. I'm like, I'll never get that time back. So what is the point? You know, if I just let go of that worry and that try to control, that desire to control everything, and just actually begin to surrender, what's meant to happen will, you know, and we are co-creators in this. So yes, we have to take inspired and aligned action, but the reality is, you know, what can we control anyway? So really allowing yourself that permission to surrender is absolutely a must in order to move forward in your soul-led life.
I love to tell my clients, you know, exactly like you said, even though all these things, and I was worried of all these things, I still am where I am today, and my life is awesome. And actually, all these things didn't happen. I love to tell my clients, today is your worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
People always listen to me like, what? What are you saying? Because if you take a decision or you take a risk or you're afraid that something is going to happen to you, you can always come back to where you are today.
Yeah.
You have the wisdom, the experience, the skills to bring your life back to where you are today. And you're going to do it much faster, even if it took you 10 years to get to where you are. It might take you 6 months now because you already did it. You're so much wiser. And so the best really is yet to come when you surrender. And the more you listen to Rebekah's podcast, the more you read books like mine and plenty of other books that are inspiring, and you apply and integrate them, the more you heal yourself, the more you align with your soul. And that soul alignment, I mean, you know that, Rebekah, you teach that. It means abundance, fun, play, boldness, living fully. Like I said, you didn't come here to hide behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And like roll your thumbs or wait for something to happen. You came here to really be the artist of your life, and to have fun and to express yourself and to experience things. And when we think about it, life is pretty miraculous.
Yeah.
So let's just really remember that every day and stop being afraid and really living like that, because today is your worst case scenario and really the best is yet to come.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think you're spot on with all of that. And I'm so excited to see what, you know, we create as a collective, and what, you know, this new chapter that we're moving into with the healed, or the healing masculine and the healing feminine. I can't wait to see what's to come. I'm so excited about where we are right now as a collective, because I know what's on the other side of this. So
I heard something, just a little thing that I heard on a podcast the other day, and it like really resonated with me like so deeply. I don't know if you know Charles Eisenstein, who's a philosopher, very interesting guy. And he did that podcast interview, and he said exactly like you said, we are in such an exciting time right now. We are like shifting the world like this. We're doing history right now. Yeah. And that's why there is overpopulation on the earth, because all the souls wanted to be there to be part of it.
Oh, I got chills. Yeah. Full body chills for that. That's amazing. That lights me up. It's so exciting. And I'm excited to be here and doing this work during this time. And I know this is this is really what we're called to step into as light workers, as leaders during this time. And it's just so cool. And I say this all the time. It's so cool to be on this journey with other amazing like minds like yourself and all the other amazing women that we get to know and be on this journey with. So it's really, really exciting. And I want to give you the opportunity, if anyone wants to connect more deeply with you, to follow your work, to follow your podcast, where can they find you on the internet? Where do you hang out the most?
So the best way to connect with me is to follow me on Instagram at Ele de Posson, ELEDEPOSSON. So you're going to be hearing my French accent every day.
I love just hearing you say your name. I love it.
Something fun that you can also do is to take my free quiz on my website to see which gifts of the divine feminine you actually already have activated inside of you and which need a little bit more love. It's a very fun and easy quiz. And then I give you some tips to really help you take care of those who need your attention. And then, otherwise I support people one-on-one. I'm going to be launching a group program in 2-3 weeks, but I don't know when this podcast is airing, so it might be too late. Who knows? Maybe you can just
probably beforehand, but either way, I will link everything so they can connect with you and follow your work and really be, buy the book. I'll link all of that for you guys so you can have that, because I think again, this work is so needed. And I just appreciate you coming and sharing your wisdom, because I know that, taking time out of your day and being able to share this with the world is really what's going to help change the trajectory of all of this. So I want to make sure that I'm mindful of your time. Do you have any last thoughts for our listeners as we wrap up today's podcast?
Yes. Well, on the same theme as what we were talking about before, and also because I know so many people struggle with surrendering, I'm going to be giving you another little tip. So the first is really to connect with your yes and your no and learn to trust yourself. The other one is to have a very spacious calendar. So that's an exercise that I give to my clients and that I did 2 years ago when I started to learn to embody my divine feminine and really understand how she functions. And quite often we have calendars, especially as women entrepreneurs, that are very busy. We get up, we do our meditation, we take care of the kids if we have some, and then meeting after meeting, and we end up the day feeling fulfilled if we do what we love, but it's very busy. And when you have a busy schedule like that, there is not a lot of space to hear your intuition, for your soul to talk to you, and for you to be creative as well. And the feminine needs a lot of space. And so it really helps you to surrender as well, because you suddenly start realizing that when you have a calendar that is very spacious, magical things start to happen, because you leave room to your co-creator. I always say, when you slow down, the universe speeds up. And so my exercise for you is to schedule, maybe start with a whole day or a weekend or whole week. If you want to go boldly and full in, do a whole week where you have no appointments. 1 appointment maximum, because you got to work with your clients and maybe you have podcast interviews. But try to have a whole week with like as much space as possible and no to-do list. Because that is going to invite you to connect with your body. If you have a to-do list, you're going to jump to your to-do list. You're going to keep yourself busy. You're going to be a lot in your head. Ask yourself, what do I feel like doing now? What's calling me? What's inspiring me? Do I want to go for a walk because it's sunny and it's 10:30 a.m.? Yes, go for the walk. And then you're going to have an amazing breakthrough in your walk, and you're going to be super inspired to send a new email to your email list that's going to lead you to having 2 new clients. Really do the things from a place of inspiration, but in order to have that inspiration, you need space.
So good. And as long as the listeners have listened to my last couple episodes, they know I took a lot of space over these last few months. That was what my soul was calling for. So take it from me. She's absolutely right. Ellie is spot on. You need that space. And I believe that if your soul is calling for this space, it's like, if your soul brings you to it, it's going to bring you through it. There's no way. And that's part of the surrender, right? Is really trusting that if you're being called to slow down, the universe is there. And like you said, will speed up for you. So, and on your behalf. So I love that. Thank you so much for all your wisdom today, Ellie. I appreciate you so much. And I know our listeners are just going to have so much value in today's episode. Guys, if you have some takeaways from today that you'd like to share with us, I will tag both of our Instagrams down below so that you guys can just